Hi there. I hope you're all hearing me very beautifully on this beautiful morning. And I want to introduce you all to our beautiful and lovely siyum that we're going to share today. And what I want to do in our siyum is I want to explain to you what we're going to be learning, and I want to tell you a bit about why we're learning it. So today, as you can tell, is siyum Bechorot, or siyum Bechorim as we call it. And it's traditionally done because, as we know, the firstborn in Egypt were spared because they were very fortunate that they had blood on their doors and they did not get struck down by the plague that destroyed the Egyptian firstborn. And in gratitude for that, we fast. We should have been fasting, except the rabbis didn't like the idea of fasting on Erev Yom Tov, so as you know, they came up with the idea of if someone finishes a Masechta or a piece of Jewish learning, or there was a bris in the morning, there's a Sudat mitzvah one has to eat. And therefore, one has to simply engage in a meal whether they want or not. And that's why we're here. So today we're going to learn the last part together of Masechet Shekalim, one of the small tractates of the Babylonian Talmud. And when you learn the end of the tractate with me, it's as though you learn the whole thing. Great shortcut. I want to mention I'm doing this in memory of my father, Bernard Lipinsky, Reb Baruch ben Yaakov HaKohen, whose yortzeit will be observed on the 7th day of Pesach. And whenever I come to shul, which is every Shabbos, and I sit where he sat, and I listen to the singing, I look around the room, I'm filled with memories. So as I gave you in the agenda, there's an agenda that you can follow. I've given you a document you can follow. And Masechet Shekalim is about the giving of the half shekel. The half shekel, as you may remember, had two purposes. It was given by every male Jew, 20 years of age and older, once a year. And that served to allow its census to be taken of the Jewish people. And the beauty of that was because the census was indirect. There's this idea that if one counts directly, one invokes the evil eye. That's why even now when we count to make a minyan, we use the brach of Hamotzi, because we don't want to ever count till 10. And I also thought when I originally began, I would take Masechet Shekalim before COVID came along, because it was April. And April, we all either submit our taxes to CRA, or those accountants among us are working on taxes, and the shekel, the machatzita shekel, the half shekel, is a tax. And I thought I would make a few jokes about accountants, about honesty, about probity, about we all hate paying taxes. Maybe the Jewish people didn't. We'd make a few jokes and learn this together. Well, as we know, events have changed, and it actually influenced my learning of this. And I invite you to come on the journey with me, and we'll learn together, and we'll see that actually what sounds like a masechta that doesn't have any relevance to us beyond making tax jokes actually has a lot of relevance. Well, the Torah commands, because that's what the masechta is about, that every Jew 20 years of age and above had to give a half a shekel per year, whatever their economic status. And this masechta, like any law code, is concerned with the intricacies of how this is done, how the half shekels are collected, who actually pays them, how do they go to Jerusalem. And while the masechta is talking about the shekels being brought to Jerusalem and counted, it then goes into a whole discussion of the bureaucracy of the temple, and we learn how it worked. And that's a bit too complex for us to get into, but I think it's important for us to realize some basic details that will resonate, I hope, with you, because they did with me. In theory, the half shekel, like taxes, was to be paid by Rosh Chodesh Nisan, 2 weeks before Pesach. An announcement was made on Rosh Chodesh Adar, and collection began right after Purim. There was a very elaborate and careful system set up so that the money would be transported safely to Jerusalem. And they were all placed in containers, which they called horns. And it was even noted where they came from. Were they from Babel, from Babylonia, or are they from Eretz Israel? And it's worth mentioning that in the temple as well, in the money room, in the Liskat, there was a large number of chests of horns set aside, each of which was carefully marked for the purpose. And I think that the first thing we should notice is that when we read the book of Vayikra, where we are now, it talks about communal offerings. These offerings, you might ask, how could they be communal? The priests are offering something. Where does the animal come from? And this is the whole point. The half shekalim were used to purchase all the communal offerings. In other words, it's a very important idea that people could pay their half shekel tax. And they knew that even if they weren't in the temple, or if they were there, they knew that every communal offering actually was purchased with communal money. The symbolism of this is very, very important. Now, we all know, of course, that whenever large amounts of communal money are in transit and they're deposited, we, of course, want to know about transparency. We want to know if the money's been properly used, if it's been properly transported, and most important of all, can we trace the process? Do we know how this works? It's really interesting to notice that, believe it or not, our modern concern with transparency is actually mirrored in this ancient text. A great deal of the text of this Masechta of Shekalim is given over to talking about not only the transportation of the Shekalim and their counting, but how does one know that those who go into the money room, to the Liskat HaShekalim, how do we know that those people did not misappropriate funds? Sounds good. There were no cameras back then. So what was done? The Talmud tells us on page 9a that the priests who went into this room, and they went in 3 times a year to take out money, even though it was deposited once, they could not curl their hair. So they couldn't put coins inside their curls. As Romans curled their hair, they had to wear their hair straight, the priests. You couldn't wear a garment that had pockets for an obvious reason. And the most interesting one is that when the priest was in this chamber, other priests would stand outside and talk to him continuously, so he couldn't even be accused of putting money in his mouth. And the Talmud says about these 3 laws, about these 3 halachot, they're based on a Torah verse that says, V'yitem niki'im lifnei Hashem v'Yisrael. You need to be blameless in front of God and the Jewish people. Think about that for a moment. God knows that you didn't steal. But we need to know. We as human beings need to know that other human beings are honest. So we need built-in safeguards to know that they were transparent about bringing in the money, about putting the money away, and most importantly, about taking it out and appropriating it carefully. And this important idea is very ancient and very, very Jewish. In fact, we have an idea called Marit Ayin, in which you do something such as the joke about the guy who steps inside the non-kosher restaurant to just look around, and someone else walks by and thinks that, my God, he might be eating there. These are ideas of Marit Ayin. We have to be careful not even to put ourselves in a position of possibly making it look like what we're doing is something blameworthy. It's a very wonderful idea, and we brought it to the world. So now that we've done that, we've learned some wonderful things. Let's fulfill the mitzvah and go to the final part of this text, and let's learn it together. So I ask you to go down your page, and you'll find I provided you with an English translation. We're going to learn the last couple of lines, which, as I said, as we learn them, means that we can then, on our own, it's as though we learn this all with me, and we therefore are able to eat all day. Great idea, very Jewish idea. So I want to take you down to the text of the last part of the last halacha in Masechet Shekalim, and I want to read it to you in Hebrew. Hamakti Shekalim uvikurim harei ze kodesh. So the temple has been destroyed in the last part of this Mishnah, which is written around 200 CE, or about 130 years after the destruction of the temple. And it refers to someone who basically says, you know what, I have a piggy bank. I have a piggy bank full of shekalim. I think the temple is going to be rebuilt, and every year I'm going to take my little half shekel and put it away, because this year Mashiach is going to come, God's going to rebuild the temple. I'm going to put away my first fruits as well. Harei ze kodesh, because they're still going to be holy. I'm separating them. I'm keeping them there. I believe the temple will be rebuilt. And because this is a stuma, this is anonymous, this is the opinion of the Rabbanim themselves. We have here a dissenting opinion underneath it. Rabbi Shimon, this is Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi, who lives in the third generation of Amoraim, who already lives even later than the first part is. Shimon says, Bikurim Kodesh, Einan Kodesh. It doesn't matter. You can separate the Bikurim, you can separate the Shekalim. They are not holy. We now go down to the Gemara. So the Gemara in this says, Rab Hamnuna v'Rab Ada bar Ahava b'Shem Rav. Rabbi Hamnuna and Rab Ada bar Ahava repeat a halacha law that was taught by Rav. Halacha the Rabbi Shimon. The halacha is according to the minority opinion of Rabbi Shimon. In other words, these offerings have no holiness. They don't need to be set aside. When there's no temple, there's no shekel. That seems obvious. I want to ask a question. By doing this, by the way, we've completed our learning of Masechet Shekalim. I want to leave us with a thought. The Gemara is written after the temple is destroyed, even longer after the Mishnah. So, why would the rabbis even believe that we should set aside Shekalim after the temple is destroyed? And why is Rabbi Shimon's opinion, which says we shouldn't bother anymore, the law? It seems so sad. Why is that the law? Well, let's think for a moment about the temple. The temple is something that we don't think about very often. But when we think about the service and how it was described, it must have been a great thing to go to Jerusalem. Watching the temple in action was a spectacular thing. Maybe not one for our modern taste, but certainly for the ancients. A service full of music, of song, of carefully scripted motions, of carefully scripted ceremonies. And you came to the largest city in your country. You may have come from thousands of miles away. It was an event that you would remember forever. And now, you may have brought something with you as well. You may have brought an offering, a personal offering. And when you brought that offering and you had it offered in the temple, you felt the closest to God you never felt before. Just as we feel when we go to the Kotel. We feel that closeness even now. Whatever we may feel about whether we want the temple rebuilt or not, when we stand at the Kotel, we feel something special. How much more so did the people who came feel that? And now it's gone. And we understand what the rabbis are saying. The rabbis are saying, let's hold on to every memory we can. It's like going home and looking at a picture of your trip and saying, oh, it was so beautiful in Yerushalayim. I had a great meal. I walked in the Cardo. Then I had some amazing, amazing shawarma in this great restaurant. And here are the pictures. And whenever you look at the pictures, you remember the trip. This is what the rabbis are saying. I want to keep those shekalim. I want to just, set them aside as holy things. Maybe the Mashiach will come and build a temple, but not. I still have the memory. It's a vital thing for me. It matters. I feel the loss of the temple and I want to cling to everything I have. I want to suggest something to you. That seems so logical. So how calmly Rabbi Shimon, who says, forget about the Shechem, there's no temple, that's the halacha. I want to suggest something to you. Rabbi Shimon already is the third generation of the Amoraim. He already lives a good 200 years after the temple has been destroyed. And he's already, unfortunately, quite sure the temple is not going to be rebuilt too quickly. But he also is probably starting to go to a synagogue, very different than ours, but synagogues are becoming important already in his time period. And what he sees is what we see. We see that we're carrying on virtually, and he sees a synagogue matters. Because we call a synagogue a Beit Mikdash Me'at. It's a small replica of the temple. We don't bring animals anymore as offerings. We look at the walls of our sanctuary. The plaques attest to personal generosity. The names of the rooms of the synagogue attest to enormous generosity. The accoutrements of the Torah attest to people pouring their hearts and souls into the synagogue. And look how much we care. We assemble, we listen. We know how much the synagogue matters. What Rabbi Shimon is saying is, the temple is gone. It may be rebuilt, but at the moment I have a system. I have a system that works. And I think the system allows me to personally participate. It allows me to offer something of myself. Some people in the temple didn't have enough money, but they made garments for the priests or bells that trimmed the priests' robes. Not all of us can afford to endow a room, but most of us have endowed something or given a contribution for a kiddush, or we've had our name in the parsha sheet. We've all bought in, or we're members. That alone is a great financial offering. And with that, we come full circle, I think, to where we are today. Unfortunately, sometimes we take things for granted. The shul's there. When you come for Kaddish, it's open. When you say Yizkor, it's open. When you want to come for Pesach or B'nai Mitzvah, it's open. And now that it's closed, we hurt. I think we feel a bit of what they felt when the temple was destroyed, and we care, and we hurt, and we pray for the synagogue's restoration, which we know will come much faster than that of the temple. And therefore, with this thought, I think we now know how important the synagogue is, even more than we did before. And I hope that we all can pray, therefore, that having been deprived for a little while, even for a small while, our hunger and our desire will fuel our prayers to the Almighty to help inspire those who seek cures, to help inspire those who stand on the front lines in hospitals and can fight against COVID, and help restore normalcy that we often take for granted, far too often, to our world. May we soon have our freedom restored on this festival of freedom. Amen. I ask you to participate with me in saying or scanning the Hadran as I say it at the bottom of our page. The traditional final goodbye prayer to this Masechta, with a wonderful hope that we learn and stay alive to learn more. May we all meet again next Pesach to say this prayer together. Hadran alach Masechet Shkalim Hadran alach. Datan alach Masechet Shkalim Datach alach. Lo nitneshemi nach Masechet Shkalim Lo nitneshemi nan. Lo be'orma din Lo be'orma de'ateh. יהי רצון מלפניך אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהינו, שתהא תורתך אמונתנו בעולם הזה, ותהא עמנו לעולם הבא. חנינה בר פאפא, רמי בר פאפא, נחמן בר פאפא, חי בר פאפא, אבא בר פאפא, רפרם בר פאפא, רכיש בר פאפא, סורחה בר פאפא, Ada bar papa, Daru bar papa. We recite the names of all these sages of a family, generation after generation. May our generations continue despite the vicissitudes of COVID. Harev Adonai Eloheinu et divrei Toracha b'finu fiyot amcha b'Yisrael. V'nei anachnu kulanu v'tzetzaenu v'tzetzai amcha b'Yisrael. Kulanu yodei shmecha v'lomdei Toracha. V'oivai tichum v'chmeni mitzvotecha ki yolam mihi. Yihi v'itami v'chukecha l'man lo evosh le'olam lo eshkach pikudecha. Kivam chayitani baruch atah Adonai למדני חוקיך, אמן, אמן, אמן. מודים אנחנו לפניך, אלוהינו ואלוהינו, ששמת חלקנו ביושבי בית המדרש ולא שמת חלקנו ביושבי קרנות, שאנו משכימים המשכימים, אנו משכימים לדברי תורה, והם משכימים דברי דברים לבטלים. אנו עמלים והם עמלים, אנו עמלים מקבלים שכר. הם עמלים ואינם מקבלים שכר. אנו רצים והם רצים, אנו רצים לחיי העולם הבא, והם רצים לבאר שחת שנאמר, מעתה אלוהים תורידם לבאר שחת אנשי דמים ומרמה לא יחצו ימיהם, ואני אפתח בך. And now we end with a prayer for the future that is very, very moving and beautiful. יראת מלפניך אלוהי אלוהי ואלוהי, כשם שעזרתני לסיים מסכת שקלים, כן תעזרני להתחיל מסכתות וספרים אחרים לסיימם, ללמוד, ללמד, לשמור, לעשות, לקיים את כל דברי תלמוד תורתך וילה, וזכות כל התנאים והאמוראים ותלמידי חכמים יעמוד לי וזרי, שלא תלוש התורה מפי זרי עד עולם, יקיים בי בדרכך, תנחיל אותך, ושוך בך תשמור עליך, תחיצות תהי תשיחך, כי ירבו ימיך, יוסיפו לך שנות חיים, אורך ימים מימינה, בשמאלה עושר וכבוד, אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך, and עמו בשלום. I thank you all for listening. I thank you all for participating. May we all do this again in the future. Amen. I wish you a gesinnt, kosher, and freilich Pesach. May we all be blessed to see the end of this. Thank you very much, and have an amazing day. Thank you.